Hi, the people in this video are going to tell you about what it feels like to be an eligibility worker. My job is to talk to you about what the job actually is. Eligibility workers are the people that clients or applicants see when they come into a human services office to apply for food stamps, Medi-Cal, or some sort of cash aid. The eligibility worker's job is to interview them, look at the information the client provides based on income, family size, and their assets, and make a determination based on their knowledge of thousands of pages of regulations as to what type of services the families may be eligible for. That's part of the job. The other part is taking down the information, making the determination, and then we have eligibility workers who do the continuing work, the ongoing job of maintaining information about clients to see if they continue to be eligible, if their life circumstances change. Documents are sent in by clients on a quarterly basis, and eligibility workers look at that information and decide whether or not the client's circumstances have changed such that their benefits may increase or even decrease. So there's two parts of the job. Intake, which is interviewing, and continuing, which is the ongoing documentation handling. Both teams see clients, so you really have to like to work with people if you want to do this job. Now, the position itself sounds pretty basic, except for it's not. There's a lot of work to be done. Anytime that an eligibility worker is doing the interviewing part of the job and they have a day scheduled where they can be at their desk to get caught up, there's almost always some sort of interruption. And interruption in a good way, in that we're helping clients. But their day is not always free as they expected to get their paperwork done. A coworker may call in sick, and so they have more interviews scheduled. A client may drop in. There may be an emergency that they need to address. So you have to be someone who's very organized, someone who likes to work with people, but someone who also can process a lot of work and get it done accurately and pretty quickly. There's lots of deadlines. Also, the continuing workers who think that they have a day at their desk to get their paperwork done have to also have emergencies, clients who drop in, phone calls, and they deal with a lot of paperwork. So you have to be organized, work fast, and like the challenge of meeting those deadlines, and like the challenge of getting your work done in a very timely but quick manner. So if you don't like fast work, the job's probably not for you. If you like that type of an atmosphere and you love to work with people, you really can help folks, you probably love the job. You'll never be bored.
When I first started the job, I wasn't too sure what the job was going to be like. I knew a little bit about it just from talking to people and reading the flyer, but not much. I didn't know that it was a human services agency which helps people with food stamps, cash aid, and Medi-Cal. And growing up in a family that received those benefits as a little kid, I knew that that's something I would like to do as an adult.
I didn't know what quite to expect when I first applied. When I read the job description, I thought, oh, I can do that. Didn't have any idea about social services whatsoever. Had no idea about the benefits that were offered or available or who would qualify or anything. So I came into this completely 100% blind.
When I first applied here for the job, I really didn't know what to expect or what was expected of me. Then I received the description of the job description, and I felt very comfortable that I could do this job. When I got here, and after I passed the test and done all that stuff and started my training, then in the training process they explained the situation a little bit more, and you got more and more comfortable.
My expectations when I first applied for eligibility worker were to be the best at what is known as customer service, pretty much. I wanted to be able to be a worker that any customer or client can call and talk to about whatever issues they were having, because I wanted to be able to help them receive as many benefits as possible, because everybody at one time or another has issues going on in their life.
Well, the training we received helped to prepare you so that you knew the basics of the programs. It kind of gave you a foundation, but until you actually hit the floor and start doing the job, you really don't know what to expect from the job. The training basically is just a foundation to let you learn the programs, the paperwork, how to use the computer system. but until you actually get in with the public and to do the job, you don't really know what's going to happen.
The training was adequate. It was very intense. It was like going to school all over again. It was 3 months long. A lot of regulations and laws and guidelines that we had to review, and they kept it very basic just so that we wouldn't get overwhelmed. So there was only so much we were able to retain and learn. So although it was a good training, when we did go out onto the floor, there was still a lot for us to learn. So it took a good year for me to feel comfortable with the job, with the position, and the training definitely helped. It definitely gave me a foundation to work from.
The eligibility worker really needs to know to expect change. If I can not express anything more today to you, it is that worker must expect change. Change happens all the time. We're talking about politics. We're talking how that budget can change. That changes your job. We're talking about assembly bills that go in that change the eligibility to some of the programs. It changes some of the programs. Over the almost 13 years that I've been here, I have seen so many changes, and you have to be able to handle that. There's computer changes, program changes, supervisor changes, employee changes, change everywhere. And so if you expect change, you're better prepared.
I think a lot of times people come into the county with the misconception that we are, the enemy, that we are here to break up families and we're here to do things to only hurt them, when in actuality what we're really trying to do is help the best way that we know how in accordance with the law. And I think it's pretty relevant. I think that everybody should know that, that we are all human beings and we do have that kind of heart, and we do care for these individuals. And what we have in mind is, the best of intentions to ensure that these families are getting everything they need as far as food, clothing and shelter, and to have that, not that just a financial, but that emotional and stability within the family as well too.
Some of the clients, they're very demanding emotionally and physically, going through an interview with them, trying to keep them on track, trying to find out how you're going to help them. And they can really take a lot of strain. You have to be patient. You have to not be emotional with them, no matter how hard they try to get you to either hurry up because they're hiding something, or they're just upset because their life is in complete chaos. That can be really hard to learn how to control and deal with that. They've got somebody in their family who's dying, or their husband beats them. I mean, they're going through some traumatic things, and you can't get sucked into their emotional stress, and you have to be able to stay calm and help them through it and be compassionate, yet have a shell to where you can continue without it getting to you.
There was a period of time where we were understaffed. You're always understaffed in this profession, and it's just the way it goes. But there was a time when we were very understaffed. We had 2 people that had went out on family medical leave, and the cases were coming at us so fast that you couldn't keep up. You had no desk time, and you were constantly getting farther and farther behind. Your phone didn't stop ringing. Clients were wondering where their benefits were. Every time you get started on a case, somebody new would walk in the door, and you'd be away from your desk again, and it became overwhelming.
Probably not too long after I started the job that I realized, wow, this is a lot of work. And it wasn't just the work part, because I'm really good at multitasking, but it was the emotional commitment. And for the first 6 months, I went home practically every day crying because of all the sad stuff that I heard. And then I started to be able to weed out, what was actual need and pain and hurt to just those that were trying to manipulate me.
I can recall a difficult situation that I was in as an eligibility worker was when I had a client who was recently released from prison, and he had a lot of mental illnesses, and he became very irate during the whole face-to-face interview. So what I had to do was I basically took a little time out from the interview room. I went out, kind of recomposed myself, went back in, and then again really tried listening to his issues and get him the benefits that he needed in order to maintain his life.
I actually did have a really hard time with a client one time where she wanted her benefits right away. I tried to explain to her that I needed some verification. She wasn't understanding me. She tried to tell me she's been on aid for 10 years and nobody's ever asked her for any of these verifications. I actually tried to stay calm and just tell her, you know what, I'm trying to do my job. This is what I need. So in order for me to help you get your benefits, you need to help me get the verifications. And that was probably the hardest, trying to make the clients understand that we can help them, but they need to help us.
Unfortunately, it becomes personal sometimes. And I think the hardest thing to separate as an eligibility worker and what I'm hearing from my workers is, you know, when these comments or these phone calls or altercations become more extreme, it makes it more difficult for them to handle. And, you know, their first response or their only response is, as a human being, is just to snap back. And a lot of times, you know, it takes training and you know, that patience to actually sit there and endure and, you know, listen to some of these people and realizing that they are where they're at and it's not personal.
Some of the challenges I faced, some of the frustrations I had with this job were the fact that we couldn't serve everybody. We couldn't help them with all their needs at this agency. And living in a small community, many of the clients I had, I knew for a very long time. I grew up in the same neighborhood. I went to school with their kids, and so I had a personal connection with them. So as they were coming to me asking for medical services, housing needs, food needs, clothing, sometimes I was able to help them, and sometimes I wasn't. And when I wasn't, there was a heavy burden on me, because I would go home and I couldn't stop thinking about them. I would think all night, even the next day, even sometimes weeks, into where can I refer this person to. I'd make calls on my own time and see if there's, you know, there has to be a place that could help this family. And now that was just one family out of many. My caseload varied in size, anywhere from 300 to 500 cases. So, and I wanted to help every family the same way, and not having that time I wanted or needed to be able to focus on these families was very frustrating.
When you first began working, and sometimes even today, after I've had almost 13 years in, sometimes you take it home with you. You shouldn't take it home. We try to separate that professional and a private life, because you're dealing with human emotions and human problems every day. And it's important to know that you've got to leave that at work. You've got to go home and enjoy that downtime, to enjoy your life. You may have been exposed during the day to the most awful stories of human problems, and you've had to sit across that desk and deal with that, hear that, maybe even drop a tear or two as you're talking to your clients, and go home knowing I'm doing the best I can do. I'm helping them to become eligible to maybe some of the programs that we have. If we don't, then maybe we can refer them out to community resources. An eligibility worker has to know what's out there in community resources, who to refer them to if we can't help. Because we come across that too. well, we just can't help. Breaks your heart. But we have to be prepared for that. So there's an emotional aspect on this eligibility job that you have to keep intact and just keep it online so that you can survive.
You don't do this job for the money. You don't. I mean, the pay's not that great. If you want to work for money, this is not the field you want to be in. Some of the greatest rewards are when you can help someone and they are just so relieved that they either break out in tears or they jump across the table and hug you. You're changing people's lives. Their lives are in chaos. It's so traumatic. They're dealing with things that they don't know how. They're reaching out for help, and you can actually help them. Help feed them, help with them with their medical needs. There's so many rewarding aspects to this job that you really feel good.
We all play a significant role in what we do, which in the long run plays into our vision and mission here with the agency, and which is to help fight poverty and abuse and get people off assistance and you know, get them back into the workforce and so they become self-sufficient. And you know, that's once I realize that, and you know, once I know that I am making that difference, that's, you know, what allowed me and gave me more of an incentive to come to work, you know, aside from just the financial, of course, when you first apply.
The rewarding part of this job is when you know you can help a family or an individual who's down on their luck, have nowhere to stay, they're homeless, they don't have any food. When you can give them homeless assistance and a place to stay and know their children are being fed and that they have a warm place to stay, it's very rewarding. And you have clients that call you and thank you for what you've done for them. I've had people come in tears and leave smiling and shaking my hand and thanking them for everything they did. It's a very gratifying job. There's a lot of work to it, but in the end, there's a lot of things that really warm your heart and make you feel really good about what you've done for the day.
The rewards that I get here is that every once in a while you help that particular client get to the place that they need to be. And then they become successful and they move on. And they're out of, you know, they work their way off the system and then they go on. So I've received cards and letters from these people thanking me for the time that I took in helping them get what they needed to do so they could get to where they are now. I also have received cards and letters from family members of clients thanking me for helping their daughter or son or something like that. And I still, in a couple of cases, I still receive Christmas cards every year from these people, and it's been 5-6 years, you know, and their child has moved on, you know, and gotten better and things like that. And so it's those are the ones that keep me here. They keep me coming back here every day. You know, I just love this job. I love what I do. The job is stressful, but I love what I do.